Right, so we are going to have a look at 5 ways to solve your home Wi-Fi woes. So my name's Tamara. I've done a few different things in my career, but they've all kind of centered around antennas and radio frequency stuff. So I actually started as an astrophysicist, went out to work on like the telescope in the bottom right hand corner, which is out in Hawaii. So I was a astronomer for a while, then I actually trained as a teacher. Then I moved into the defence industry and spent 10 years as an antenna expert. So I was dealing with different frequency radio stuff, but same kind of radiation as you use in your Wi-Fi. So I now work as an independent consultant. So I go into various companies and solve their problems. What we're going to have a very quick look at is what is Wi-Fi, and then I'm going to go into the ways to improve your setup. So Wi-Fi is just a way of transmitting electromagnetic radiation in the radio frequency area, which is kind of various bits of the work I've done. We're not going to go into great detail how it does this, but we need to know a few properties to be able to fix any issues that we have with our Wi-Fi. So the signal comes out of the antenna on your router and it just spreads out. So something that you call propagation. It propagates out from there. It's what you call an omnidirectional antenna, so it spreads out in all ways. So you have to kind of do an imagining this is a 3D picture, because it's very difficult to render this on 3D on a 2D screen, but it just spreads out from the source in all directions. So this is what it would look like if you put your router in the middle of a field. But we don't tend to live in fields anymore, we live in buildings. And we have a problem with that because the radiation is absorbed. So your Wi-Fi signal is absorbed by your walls, by your furniture, by your ceilings. Oh, can we just make sure everyone's muted because I got horrible feedback there.
Oh, can we just make
So we're going to have a look at my house because my house is a nightmare to fit with Wi-Fi. So this is looking straight down on the house. Kitchen is on the left. Living room, dining room is on the right. It's a thrilling picture. We're going to move on quickly. If we put the Wi-Fi router where our internet signal comes into the house, so where it actually gets into the house on the cable, it's right at the right hand side. I've put this propagation idea over the top of the house. So you can see there's an absorption, there's a reduction in the strength of the Wi-Fi signal as it goes through the wall and as it goes outwards. And you can see that the far end of the kitchen, no Wi-Fi. And unfortunately, that's the end where the cooker and everything is. So that's where we tended to have the stuff. So this was not very good, really not a particularly helpful thing. So the first, oh, sorry, that might make more sense. I think that's the right screen now. That's the joy. I can't actually tell what I'm presenting. I have to psychically know what slides up. Yeah, kitchen doesn't get there. So the first tip is put the router in the middle of your area that you want your Wi-Fi to cover. So if we do that in the house, we just moved it along a few meters and you can see that we actually get that signal out into the kitchen just. But the houses tend not to be in 2 dimensions. We tend to have like second floors and lower ground floors and things. So we're going to change this to a 3-dimensional view. So this is our house now looking from the side, living room, dining room on the right, kitchen on the left. So you can see it's better than it was when it was over at the right hand side, but it's not great. And the bathroom and the kitchen on the left hand side, signal isn't great. So we moved to having multiple access points. So this is tip number 2. Don't just have one access point when you can have more. So we now have 3 access points. We have one where I'm standing in the bedroom upstairs, we have one in the living room downstairs, and one out in the kitchen. And you can see this forms a mesh. So this is kind of the new system that we're doing with Wi-Fi and actually how our mobile phones work as well. We create essentially a mesh system of overlapping signals. And you can buy these very cheaply and easily off of Amazon. They're excellent. We now have bulletproof Wi-Fi even in the loft. It's great. So I thoroughly recommend getting more than one access point. But this doesn't stop your Wi-Fi from dropping out. So there's another system that you got is the bandwidth that you have on your Wi-Fi signal. In fact, the bandwidth you have working at a specific frequency. So most Wi-Fi works at around 2.4 gigahertz. So this gives you a certain amount of information that everybody that connects to the Wi-Fi can use. But Wi-Fi now works on 3 different frequencies. You've got your 2.4 gigahertz, your standard one. You've got a 5 lower and a 5 upper gigahertz band. So this is a screenshot from a tool that you can use to look at what Wi-Fi signals you can see in your house. So this is what I could see at about 11:30 p.m. one night when I was writing this talk. And you can see all the lines on the 2.4 gigahertz one. There's lots of them. You can see the 5 lower, so that's that band in the middle. There's a few bands there, and you can see the 3 on the 5 upper, which are all ours. So we actually mainly use the 5 upper band, and we basically have the entire bandwidth to ourselves. But in this house, I can see 20 different Wi-Fi networks. So that means there's 20 people, or 20 houses, I should say, trying to fight over this bandwidth. And this is why we can get dropouts. So there's a lot of people trying to get the information that they want from their Wi-Fi systems. There's a limited amount of information that you can get at this frequency, and it just gets full. So you can't then connect to your Wi-Fi. So if you get a router that moves up to using the 5 gigahertz ones, you've got a lot more chance of there being less people there. So you should keep your Wi-Fi working sweetly for longer. The next tip is don't use Wi-Fi, which is maybe a bit of a rude thing to say when this is about how to improve your Wi-Fi, but there is a theory to this. So your internet connections are static, so your television, your desk, if you have a permanent desk, your games consoles, whatever it is that you have in your house that uses the Wi-Fi at the minute but can use an Ethernet cable, connect it to the Ethernet cable. It's not competing for the bandwidth on the Wi-Fi, and those items get perfect internet connection as long as you've got perfect internet connection into your house, but you're not going to get dropouts from Wi-Fi there. And the last one is think when you upload, and I've actually encountered this an awful lot in a lot of the online classes I've done. So you get an upload and a download speed on your internet package. Your download speed tends to be quite big because we tend to do this the most. We stream movies, we stream music, we do everything that's a download. Our upload is a lot less. But you do need to upload when you're on a Zoom call, and if you're doing backups and stuff to the cloud, you need to upload. So I've done classes that I've done week on week. 1 week, the teacher has appalling connectivity. You can't see them. They reduce into that tiny little square in the middle. They're all pixelated. You can't hear them. It's because they've set an upload going at the same time that they're teaching. And this just, in the same way, clogs up that bandwidth, means that you cannot transmit that data, so you get a poor signal. So don't do your uploads during the day, do them during the night when it doesn't matter. So you get to use the entirety of your internet availability at your leisure when you need to do something. Right, so those are our 5 tips. Now's the time to ask any questions. I'll be happy to answer them.